When I teach The Merchant of Venice, the emotions that Portia evokes in the class are a straight-up roller coaster ride. We all think that it's fun to watch her insult the suitors in Act 1. We laugh, have a good time, think that she's witty. But then, just as we're deciding that we like her, we're taken back with the racism that she displays when she's talking about Morocco. We then realize that she's the epitome of privilege. White, rich, able-bodied, intelligent in all the ways that culture values. She's not a man, though, and that's something to note. In addition to being intelligent and all that, she's spoiled and often cruel. It makes us not want to like her. But her speech about the quality of mercy is beautiful. It's inspiring, and it's hard not to respect the way that she outperforms all the men in Act 4, and by becoming a man in that act, illustrates just how silly gender norms are. Portia is amazing throughout that scene. But at the end of that scene, we're reminded of how mean she can be. She just goes hard on Shylock, and it makes you not like her again. And then, in Act 5, we like her again, because she's funny. We're reminded of how witty she can be when she's using all that dramatic irony to mess with Bassanio. I never know how I should feel about her. So, in this final episode of Season 2, let's struggle with how to interpret Portia. Portia is not the title character of The Merchant of Venice. That's Antonio. Nor is Portia the most well-known character of The Merchant of Venice. That's Shylock. She does have the most lines, though, and every time I read this play, I realize that there's always another layer to her character. So let's start with the first time that we hear about her. Bassanio tells Antonio that there is a lady richly left in Belmont. He says that the four winds blow in from every coast, renowned suitors, and her sunny locks hang on her temples like a golden fleece, which makes her seat of Belmont Calcas Strand, and many Jasons come in quest of her. So right away, we are told to think of her in mythological terms. She's Medea, living in Calcas. She's the Golden Fleece, and all the suitors are aspiring Jasons. But what does that mean, exactly? Well, to win his inheritance and his rightful spot on the throne, Jason has to prove himself worthy by finding the Golden Fleece. In order to get this fleece, he needs to complete a series of impossible tasks. Luckily, a sorceress named Medea has a crush on him, and she offers to help in exchange for marriage. He agrees. She helps him get the Golden Fleece, and they marry. The story ends in tragedy, though, as people in Jason's kingdom fear Medea's powers and run the couple out of town. This is too much for Jason, and he ultimately leaves her to marry somebody else. She responds by killing their children. So similar to Portia, Medea is an innocent young lady with a crush on a handsome young soldier. Also similar to Portia, Medea is scary powerful. Both these things are true of both characters. They're young and vulnerable, but they're also much more powerful than the men that they have a crush on. This, I think, helps quite a bit in understanding why Portia is such a confusing character. These two qualities do not often mix in the same person. We don't often see vulnerability coupled with outrageous power. But Portia is not just compared to Medea, she's also compared to the Golden Fleece itself, the treasure that will bring an inheritance and social status. She's a prize to be won. Bassanio needs to complete a task, the casket game, in order to earn the prize. She's not so much a person as she is the embodiment of wealth itself. In that way, Portia is objectified. So let's pursue that line of thought for a second. Often in Shakespeare plays and early modern European culture, women are given as gifts. They are an object of exchange. One man can show his gratitude or appreciation for another man by helping him acquire a wife. Like in Much Ado About Nothing, Don Pedro helps Claudio woo Hero in the opening acts. Portia is no different. As an act of friendship, Antonio gives Bassanio the opportunity to woo Portia. She is a gift that Antonio is giving to Bassanio. She's also a gift that her father is giving. He's not there, but he set up the casket game. He set her up to be a prize to be won. Whether she's a gift or a prize, she is an object, a valuable object of exchange. And that's pretty much why she's pissed off in Act 1. So in both cases, the case of Antonio and the case of her father, the giving or awarding of Portia is also a power move. Bassanio cannot give Antonio a gift of equal value, nor can he provide Portia's estate with anything of equal value. So by offering Portia, they establish power over Bassanio. The giving of gifts is not just a sign of gratitude, it also establishes power hierarchies. Bassanio will owe them. He will need to be grateful. And if we follow that line of thought for a second, we will realize that Portia understands this gift-giving game a little bit too well. When she marries Bassanio, she says, "But now I was the lord of this fair mansion, master of my servants, queen over myself, and even now, but now, this house, these servants, and this same myself are yours, my lords. I give them with this ring." She gives Bassanio a ring, and in doing so symbolically gives herself and her estate, a gift that Bassanio cannot possibly match. With the words coming out of her mouth, she seems to be subordinating herself, committing herself to be directed by him, and all that. But with the act of giving the ring and herself as a gift, she establishes herself as the one with real power. He will need to be grateful to her. You could argue that she plays the same gift-giving game with Antonio. By winning the trial on his behalf, she's given him a gift that he cannot possibly match. She's made it so that they both owe her something that they cannot repay. She's disrupted the patriarchal game of male gift-giving. Neither of them have the power to repay her in anything other than gratitude and loyalty. So maybe she's a femme fatale archetype, a dangerous woman who ensnares men in compromising traps and threatens male power. She has Antonio give up his position as Bassanio's patron. She had Bassanio give up control of her estate when he gives up the ring. That would vibe well with her Medea associations. She's subordinated two male protagonists and placed herself at the top of the power hierarchy. And, she is definitely disrupting male authority in this play. When she adopts the vestiges of male authority as a judge in a trial, she proves that the only thing preventing her from positions of real institutional authority is her gender, something as superficial as clothes. She's exposing how fragile the patriarchal systems are by showing that they can depend on something as superficial as having the right clothing. But then again, how disruptive is she actually to the status quo? A good argument could be made that these moments of role reversal in the play confirm the patriarchal power structures. If she can only have power when she's acting like a man, just as Jessica can only leave her home on her own terms by dressing as a boy, then isn't that just a tacit acknowledgement that men are in charge? A woman inhabiting a position of power by acting like a man is still acting like a man. In other words, she's not actually transforming how power works in these spaces. She's just letting patriarchal power work through her as a woman. Moreover, even if we read these moments of role reversal as moments of female empowerment, we do so at the expense of all other prejudices within the play. I think you could read Portia not as a revolutionary, but as a conservative character, someone who works to preserve the status quo. At the start of the play, the Christian men of Venice, the population with institutional power in Venice, they're struggling a bit. Bassanio, who tells us he has noble blood, is poor. Antonio is sad, and throughout this play, his ships do nothing but crash. Lorenzo, Gratiano, and the others don't seem particularly well off either. And Portia is the one who returns them all to power. It's through her that the wealth of Belmont gets funneled to Bassanio. She's the one who announces the return of Antonio's ships. She's the one who, through the court, moves money away from Shylock and the Jewish community and towards Lorenzo and the Christian community. She expels all the foreign suitors from her land and keeps the nobleman next door as her husband. The scholar Kim F. Hall argues this better than I can when she says that reading Portia as the heroic, subversive female proves particularly problematic when we place her actions in relation to other categories of difference. Her strongest verbal abilities are only bent towards supporting a status quo which mandates the repulsion of aliens and outsiders. To valorize such cross-dressed figures as liberating others is to ignore the way their freedom functions to oppress the racial, cultural others in the play. So I think that goes a long way towards helping me understand this character and that emotional roller coaster that she puts me on. She is a powerful, smart, and witty woman who overcomes the constraints of her father and the institution of marriage to take control in a man's world. But in doing so, she only creates a more unequal world for everybody else. Belmont and Venice are purged of racial and religious outsiders. She's further oppressed minority and foreign communities. By focusing on her individual autonomy and overcoming the societal constraint placed on her gender, she's only intensified other prejudices in the play. In other words, Portia is the reason that we need intersectional feminism. And on that note, let's end season 2 of Shakespeare Play-by-Play. I'll be back in the spring with a season on A Midsummer's Night's Dream. Make sure that you're subscribed so that you're notified when that season is available. I'll put a full bibliography in the description of every video. Thank you for following along, and I'll see you again this spring.